I am Sary Stefanki. I run our customer success team here at Zendesk. And that means that we help customers really make sure that they're getting the most out of both their support strategy and what they're trying to do long term, as well as help them with their tactical use of Zendesk. So what I'm most excited about, in fact, about these panels is one of the most common questions we get from all of our customers is, well, how do your other customers do it? And so here we are, and we get to bring on some of our most spectacular customers to tell you a little bit about how they're doing it, how they're planning to do it, and what's next on for them. But before we bring the customers who really are the stars of the show here, we're going to bring on a guy you might have heard of, Mikkel, our CEO and founder. And he's also going to be part of our first panel. So Mikkel, come on. Mikkel, you make sure to come out here and put a book on everyone's seat. I saw you putting it out. And I was hoping before we have the other folks join us, if you could, not that everyone isn't going to tear through and read every page, but if you could give everyone
Thanks, Sary. Well, yeah, first of all, great to see everybody. Thanks for visiting us here in 1019 Market Street. I wrote a book about the early days of Zendesk because I thought that was a fun idea. To give everybody a little introduction to why we actually built this company, how we came along with this idea, and how we started this journey that was 3 guys in a kitchen in Copenhagen, cold, miserable Copenhagen. And we took the company here to San Francisco 5 years ago and built this phenomenal organization, all these phenomenal people, and starting to get all these fantastic customers that really helped shape our vision and our mission about what we wanted to do with this company. So it's been a fun ride. It's been a crazy ride. I'm way too honest about it in the book, how crazy it's been. But it's of course been a fantastic privilege to have the opportunity to build a company, and I hope it can be some inspiration for others that are thinking about building something new or thinking about starting their own thing or just want to connect with the original founding story of the things.
And why support? And you get into that a bit in the book, but I think that we have a whole room of support professionals who this is what we're passionate about. But is that what you intended to start out and change, and why?
So we're 3 founders of Zendesk, and 2 of us worked a few years as consultants implementing customer service systems from both the business process side and from the technology side. And back then it wasn't. We used to say nobody picked up any chicks in the help desk. Sorry. But it's just like it was not a very sexy industry, and frankly nobody really cared about the customer service experience. As we heard before, like customer service truly just was a cost center. And so many things have happened over the last 5-10 years. We are, as consumers, we have a much louder voice today. We are much more informed. We have access to so many more people on the internet, and that changes the relationship between an organization and its customers, and make it a much more eye-to-eye level conversation. So I think that we were fortunate that we built a great product and came out at the right time. But what we've really seen over the last 5-10 years is that the world has changed tremendously, and that customers today, they expect much more from the organizations that they deal with, and organizations can turn that opportunity into, or can turn that interaction into a true opportunity to use their customer relationship to grow their business.
In the intro, at one point you say, pull up a seat and let Grandpa Mikkel tell you about the days when customer support was just a box checking exercise, and it wasn't about really meaning. Do I get bonus point for already memorizing? Sorry, so weird.
No.
So, what is the telltale sign of a customer who really means it when they're coaching their customer support, as opposed to one who's just checking the box?
Well, I think that everybody who's been working in customer service knows it's a tough job. Customer service is not something you can, and I think we heard that formulated very well just before. Like, customer customer service is not something you can just high five and cheerlead your way out of. You know, customer service is a hard job, and you have to get up every single morning. Like you work out every morning. I know, 5:30.
I use the mind body app. I know you use it.
And it's no fun getting up 5:30 every morning to exercise when it's raining and I don't know what. But it's good for us. You know, same way that customer service is good for a company. You learn so much from your customers. You learn so much about your product and ultimately about your company yourself. And I think that when we meet these companies where they are authentic, you know, when they look us in the eyes and they don't try to wow us or impress us or anything like that. They just try to build a relationship so they can help us with a problem or they can solve our issue or answer our question. I know we recognize these companies from the authenticity and the truthfulness and the transparency and the empowerment they try to bring to the team.
Well, let's bring a couple of those customers on. How about it?
Yes.
Bill and Kani, will you join us on stage? Feel free to grab a mic, pull up a seat. All right, so Kani, you run support at Pivotal. I'd love you to give us an overview of yourself and your role and what Pivotal does. And then Bill, if you could follow suit, we'll do the Cliff Notes version and then we'll get the conversation on the way.
Is this on? Hi, my name is Kani. I'm with Pivotal. I'm the Senior Director of Global Support Services team. I have actually a question before introducing myself. How many of you here are supporting businesses? All right, great. And how many of your businesses are enterprise customers? All right, okay. So Pivotal is, you probably have heard the term or discussions of consumer-grade internet. And a lot of companies, enterprise-level companies, are struggling, if I may be honest, to make that transition. They are looking at large IT companies like Facebook, Google, and trying to understand how they interact with their customers and how they use data to drive their businesses. So what Pivotal does is we are trying to create the services and a platform around to help them to do that. And that's our main product, Pivotal Cloud Foundry, and so that's a bit about Pivotal and myself.
I don't have a nifty question to start out, I'm sorry. I'm sure I'll think of one by the end and then I'll ask you. My name is Bill Lapcevic. I run customer success for New Relic, and New Relic customer success is actually a number of different departments. It is, of course, the customer success managers who are the post-sale account managers and kind of handle all the relationship building long-term for our customers, in concert with the sales reps and other areas of the company. But it also includes renewals, it includes support, which is why we're here. It includes expert services, which is sort of a best practice delivery unit. We can talk about that later. And it also includes an area of measurement, Net Promoter Score, and some other health and engagement metrics that we're in the middle of implementing. It's a pretty big team. It's a very important customer-facing and operational team at the company, and I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, we're excited to have you guys. So let's first start out, Kani, to your question about supporting business. And that style of customer. Maybe it's not so traditional as the basic consumer support. What's different? What's the same? What do you have to take into account? And we have similarities in Zendesk as well. So maybe you can speak to those pieces too.
Sure. So first, I think there are different types of customers, but we don't differentiate any customer. Right? End of the day, there is a consumer or a small company or a large enterprise. Customers should be respected and treated the same way we do to everybody else. At Pivotal, our just customer base happens to be a large enterprise customers, and by that I mean the big companies like GE, AT&T, Verizon, if I can mention a few. And I had an interesting opportunity, I say, last year when we started Pivotal. Pivotal is a company created by EMC Corporation and VMware. So we got large parents, and we had the opportunity to create this spin-off. And they already had support tools, and EMC used a certain set of product, and EMI is another one. And yet I decided to strategize and use a third piece to complicate iAgent's lives further. But the goal there was to ensure that long-term we can have an identity that resonates with our new customer base, and something that's easy to use and easy to manage and maintain. And more than anything, there's something simple. Simple is kind of a mission or motto in pivotal support, keeping it simple. And it all started with keeping it simple for our agents, keeping it simple for our customers, and eventually being able to also draw a tremendous amount of information from those customer interactions to get back the business. And that is not to say just traditional table stake support KPIs, your average handling times or CSAT, but it's a lot more that you can add value in terms of being support to the company. So we looked at those challenges and opportunities, and we decided to go with Zendesk. And we did that by actually 2 ways. I mean, we had to eat our own dog food, we had to look at big data, we used data to kind of make our decisions. But more than in parallel, we did not forget the simple shadowing of our agents. If you will, just to look at what are their challenges, how would that be simpler if they did this instead, or where are they taking more time? So that kind of analysis or analysis of data or observations is critical, I think, as you make this strategy and plan.
Yeah. What's been critical for you?
Well, I just inherited this department, actually. No, I've been in Relic for a very long time, but literally I just inherited the customer success organization back in end of June, early July. And one of the critical pieces for me is getting all the pieces of engagement with the customer and all the departments, not only my departments, but all the company, to actually work together. And it's really, really challenging because everybody has their own agenda, everybody has their own direction, and that level of communication internally is really, really challenging. It takes a lot of walking around the office and sitting down with people and trying to understand how they think, but it also takes a lot of process and a lot of structure. So, as an example, one of the things we were working on with our marketing department is, and I heard this before tonight, is a sort of customer engagement map. What are all the customer touch points across all the various segments that we cover? And we cover individuals who are using our product, performance management, software analytics tools. Individuals are using them all the way up through enormous companies like Microsoft or Rackspace or all the brand names that you've ever heard. And so we have this particular challenge, which is I have to support one-person companies and I have to support hundreds of thousands of person companies. And they actually want to interact with us and engage with us in completely different ways. Some want very much self-service, some want to talk to somebody, some want somebody to go on site and work with them when there's a problem with how they've implemented the software, or when they're not seeing as much value as they might have expected to see. Those are the big things that we focus on, and trying to find ways to measure it so you can actually prove that you're making a dent in customer retention, but also in customer happiness.
So supporting small companies and supporting big companies, ring a bell, Mikkel?
No, but it's funny to think about how we call our customer service organization, we call that customer advocates. And it's funny to think about how that evolved. Like, it's of course described in my new book that we have right in front of you. But we started out. We had this guy Mikkel, an old friend of mine, and he lived in Hong Kong. He said, like, let me help you with this Zendesk thingy you're building. So he worked in Hong Kong and he hired a bunch of students out there, and that was our original customer advocacy organization. And their mission was to build relationships with the trials and the customers. Like, reach out to them, be proactive, embrace your spelling errors, all of that. Just build the relationship so that they know there's people behind the screen and they feel comfortable about reaching out to us when they want to. And that has evolved now to this, like, I don't know how many 100 people we have in our advocates organization. I think one of the lessons that we have learned, I think, is that when when you provide service to businesses rather than consumers, you have to remember that businesses are people too, and embrace that and have a personality, and remember to appeal to that individual, that person behind in the organization as you build your organization, and empower your people to build that true relationship with people. I think is one of the little lessons, at least, that we can build in our operations.
And then having to scale that, though, is where technology can come into play. Kani, you were talking about your sentiment index. Can you kind of explain a little bit tactically what you guys have done and how it works and how that helps you bring that personal human touch to the support experience?
So, in the spirit of using big data and analytics, we just defined a few triggers for what we thought makes a customer happy, and also looking at their ticket history and simple tools. For example, one was how many tickets has this customer opened the last week, or how many mission critical or severity one type issues have they had in the last week, or how many tickets that impacted their business. And then we gave them a score that could be deducted out of 100, and at the end of the day you have a running score for each customer as to what we are calling the sentiment index. Now we aggregate all of these numbers into one index, so there's almost like an S&P 500 index. I can come in the morning and take a look to see how we are doing, today versus tomorrow, and what can we kind of do to increase that. But it was really interesting that we did that, and then we also didn't stop there. We integrated that with Zendesk, so that when the agent has a ticket, it sends an API and calls that number, and it just puts it on the ticket. So we're also remembering that these are people behind with actual problems first and foremost. And in our case, most of the time their lives depend on it. And I'm not exaggerating when I mean lives depend on it. Their jobs may depend on it because these are enterprises, they lose money every time something happens, and they need to get things up very fast. So we remind ourselves, of course, they're working with people and who has put food on their table, but that score now gives us kind of indication of how we should interact with that person. 100% meaning they're happy, we are doing great things, hopefully the index is doing the right thing, and then we can actually interact with the person in a certain way. But if you have a score as 45, you know they've gone through pain too, so you can have empathy and sympathy and kind of change the way you talk to them and be more supportful. Try to help them beyond that problem and see how can we look at the problems holistically. Maybe there's other three other agents. Often pull those and say, hey, you actually have a lot more to let me take a look at your report as a whole. So that's a little bit of the sentiment index. And we also do some stuff with the data and the logs that we collect too, which enable us to do some analytics and tell maybe where the problem is so that the agents can act fast. I know Sam was talking about speed. No matter what you do, speed is the best way to make your customer happy. If you can solve this problem fast, of course, the way you do that matters, but I think that's a part that we kind of focus on.
Well, do you guys have a similar approach, or what do you do?
Yeah, so it was really interesting to listen to that because I think we're playing around with a couple of things that play into this. First, what I would say is kind of building off the sentiment index is another thing that I think would be really interesting is to use it to at scale populate who should you be talking to more proactively. One of the challenges that we have something like 250,000 individual users using our software every day across thousands of accounts all over the world. And I have a very small customer success management team who is trying to be proactive with these accounts and get them to really understand all the nuances and finesse behind our software, which is very powerful software, and it's very easy to use, but it's so easy to use that sometimes you don't get into the really advanced, black belt version of what you can do with the thing. And it's people who do get to that level of maturity that tend to stay with us, right, for a very long time. They tend to have a long lifetime value, and they're much more profitable for the company. So in terms of getting customers to stay, we try and get them to be more mature. When they're more mature, the product is more sticky, they're using it in more places, they've bought more stuff. So the problem is at scale, when you have all these users and you have small teams, you know, even a relatively large support team, but we're never going to have 250,000 support people or 250,000 customer success managers to have one-on-one relationships. So we can't actually talk to everybody, and we can't be proactive with everybody. So what do? We're trying to figure out two things. One is, how do you bubble up the customers that are starting to become unhealthy, right? Not the ones that are already sick, the ones that, you know, the analogy I use is, I want to know when my customer has high blood pressure so I can give them statins, instead of waiting for them to need open heart surgery. Because for open heart surgery, I need a ton of people. And I can save them, but it's a risky business, right? Whereas high blood pressure medication isn't too risky. So it's really hard to bubble that up. And we're using metrics, sort of like your sentiment score, to do that. We have engagement scores and health scores and net promoter scores, and we're playing around with how to do that. And then we have this maturity index, which kind of outlines the characteristics of customers who are immature, novice users, and some customers are mature or immature and still novices, and the behaviors of those that are very mature or very advanced users of the product. And we've divided it actually for us into 4 different levels, ranging from sort of being onboarding to being a center of excellence for application performance management and software analytics. And we've defined sort of the characteristics in each place, and because of that, then we can go back into our education department, our services department, our support department, and say, what do we need to do when you encounter a level 1 customer? How should you approach that problem? And what type of offerings do we want to provide for that customer to help them get to the next level? Just the last point is, I talked through this customer maturity model with about a handful of customers, 15 or 20 customers, and almost invariably, when you tell them what's in the model, they say, well, I'm level 2, but I bet that guy over there is level 3, how do I pass him? Right? It's like a video game to them. It's really crazy, I did not expect that. But they all want to move up, it's almost like gamification, unintentional. But measuring customers in that way helps you know how do you engage with them, and what resources do you need to put in place, and then measuring them to understand who's starting to get sick helps you at scale be most effective, rather than, you know, fire drill, run around with your hands in the air trying to save a patient.
I just want to say sorry. I think it's super interesting. I think this trend we're hearing about, like, and this is something we care deeply about at Zendesk, this move from the traditional world of reactive customer service to be much more proactive in customer service. Because we all know that of all the support requests we get, they only cover like 10% of the real requests that are out there. You know, like, we don't see the real iceberg. We only hear about the 10% of the people who actually takes the time to, you know, write an email or give us a phone call. We never hear from the 90% that we sooner or later going to lose. So this is about using data to be extremely targeted and proactive in reaching out to customers when you see indicators that they are moving, that they are turning into or reaching a critical moment where they can lose confidence in the product, where they run into issues, or they start to have questions. And being proactive with them at that point and helping them get over that bump and turn a potential bad experience into a great experience is it's changing your relationships fundamentally with the customer and really helps them turn them into these lifelong loyal customers that we all want. So it's super interesting to hear how you do this stuff in real life.
So reactive and proactive, and we coined so reactive support and proactive support, very important. We coined the term predictive support. So,
Awesome.
It's really predicting who's gonna go something fast, and then doing something proactively.
We should talk too about what happens after you've worked with the customer in terms of metrics that you might get out of your support systems. Some of the really interesting things that we look at are are how many tickets and what tickets have to be escalated to engineering to solve it. I mean, these are pretty basic things, but watching the changes that we make in how we approach the customer more proactively and how it affects the percentage of tickets that get escalated and involve engineering resources, which really should be building the next set of features and the next set of capabilities, is fascinating to watch. And we've reduced it dramatically by 10 times over the last several years. And then also being able to get the rest of the organization to rally around metrics so that they become more customer engaging in the right way at the right time. All of these metrics are coming out of our support systems, and we also use the support system to feed metrics into our sort of our health and engagement and analytics as well. They're really critical pieces to it.
So is everyone bought in? I mean, you guys are executives who clearly understand this and are passionate about it, but you're at the table with a whole crew of them who all have their own strategies to execute on. How does this group go home and say proactive is what it's about, and here are the 3 things that we should do and incorporate in our strategy? Is it enough till battle? Is everyone bought in? How do you guys do it? And Mikkel is cracking up.
Yeah, it is, you need the buy-in. It's not always easy. I was talking to Annie before we started here, and she talked about testing small and failing fast and iterating. And even in a large enterprise, I think it still stands true. Sometimes you don't know how to take a story up to your executive management or your finance and ask for resources. So what we did was actually, I wish I had a better story to tell you, but it was really agile and really organic. We tried with a small sample. I think I signed up for the Zendesk account myself 1.5 years ago. And then you just test it, you just try it, and then you get people, a few more colleagues or peers or even my boss, and to just take a look at it once you have a good understanding of how it works. And it's amazing how that return on investment, big TCs that you had to write to get all this funding and backing that you couldn't do before, how it becomes more and more easier as a task. Then you see for yourself what kind of benefit you'll be getting from doing these things. And it's just following a fundamental human instinct to do things in small steps. And then if you fail, you try something else. Even today on some of the apps that we kind of are launching in the App Store or things that we're building, we do it with a smaller test audience. And then very soon you will see if it's going to work or if it's going to bring any relief. And when you're convinced, it's an easy sell to go in front of anybody in your company and stand strong and confident, say, I need X amount of dollars, and they'll believe you because you're that passionate about the story, and you have some data to also show. So that was kind of my strategy, and not going through the waterfall approach at a large company of spending 6 months to just evaluate it and 3 years to implement it. It was just a total opposite. And I think I'm also fortunate by our managers also were forthcoming and understanding. So it all depends in the environment you're in, but I think it's a great way to try something out.
What app are you trying right now?
So right now we just implemented the time tracking on the tickets, and this was not for agents, for us to be big brother on our agents. We don't consider necessarily a short AHT, average handling time of ticket, to be always good. Sometimes we spend more time with customers, that's better. But we needed this number to prove to our management that we did more headcount. So it was critical. So we did a very small test, everybody liked it, we released it. But right now I'm testing a GoToMeeting that you can embed inside Zendesk. You click on a button within the ticket and it sends the customer the information, you connect to a system. You can actually block him from typing anything on his machine so that we take control of the screen and the keyboard, we do our troubleshooting. The video file becomes an attachment in the ticket. It's just, I knew this would sell itself. We didn't have to do a demo or a test, but I just went down the path of getting one license and testing it out. And in most cases, these guys will give you the license free. If you say, I want to test, can you give me for the next month free license? And most, the company that has good products will be able to give it for free. And that's a good sign too that you're choosing the right path. And Yeah, so those are the two cool new things that I'm trying on.
Sorry, back to the original question, I just wanted to hear about the apps. I always like that about apps. That one's pretty standard.
Yeah, so is it an uphill battle?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it hard? Yes. Is everyone engaged and on the same page? Yes and no. I think conceptually the culture at New Relic is such that we always put our customer first. And our brand speaks to that, the way we interact speaks to that vast majority of the time. But in terms of actually getting people to interact properly with customers, actually take part in some of these processes, actually pay attention to the things that that are not, for example, a salesperson wants to sell more, but they have to understand that in order to sell more, you got to take care of the customer, right? So sometimes selling more and hitting their quota gets in the way, right? So culturally, we're kind of there. Individually, people often don't know what to do or how they fit in or how to approach it. What we ended up doing to kind of spark this is we actually created sort of an internal initiative that we call Project Bear Hug, right? And it has a logo, and the logo I got off of Google. I did a search for bear hug, and there's a fisherman wrapped up in a grizzly bear, and his feet are off the ground. And the idea is that what we're really looking to do is bear hug the customer, right? And it's to treat the customer really, really well, understand the customer, envelop the customer in our culture. Because we think our culture is one of the strongest things about our company, and if we can draw an enterprise customer or an SMB customer or any customer into our culture, they will see that as a huge differentiator between us and our competition. And so it's been kind of a rallying point for people. They hear Project Bear Hug, they know it's important, they know that they have to, suddenly their ears perk up, they're like, oh, okay. And we've even gone so far as we have little bears, little teddy bears that say Data Nerd across the front, right, in their little New Relic shirt. And if you do something particularly spectacular internally where you're helping a customer, you get awarded a bear. And so we've awarded a couple of bears, hopefully more and more over time. But you kind of have to do this to keep reminding people of the importance of customer engagement the right way and a quality interaction with the customer every single time.
Have you ever actually bear hugged a customer?
No, but at least one of our salespeople has. And it was spectacular and uncomfortable at the same time.
If I made Mikkel bear hug, what would you have to say?
Whatever Mikkel would like to do in assistant building.
Well, Mikkel, let me reform the question for you a little bit. It was about this bit of beginning about having a support-focused leadership. But
let me rather say where we get some of our
Yeah.
inspiration from. I heard about some of the things they do at Amazon, and I think they do some amazing things there. One of the things I found out is that they empower all their support people to take a unit out of their catalog. If they see indicators that this is a bad unit, something is wrong with this, people have too many questions, they can yank it out. Empower all their support people to do that. I think that's fantastic. It's just like, it changes just the dynamics of really caring for the customer. Another thing I know they do is that at all the board meetings, of course, they present their customer service, their metrics, the data for how they do and so on. But they put in a lot of anecdotes. And they try to put in these anecdotes, real anecdotes about people having a bad or great or terrible or frustrating experience. And they added real value in here. Like they describe the person, this is Bob, he lives here, and he has 2 kids and a dog. And so you get a feeling for this is a real person, and he has a real life. And it's your neighbor, or it's the guy that you meet when you drop your kids off at school. And he had a terrible experience because we run our business this way. And we could make it, and we could improve his life if we did these things differently. And just like always having these anecdotes that supports your data. So it's not just data, but it's real people. And they are frustrated because of this and that with your product. Or they have these questions, or they run into these issues because of these things. I think that's extremely powerful, and I know that changed the culture of Amazon. So these are some of the places where we get some inspiration. I think that's extremely cool.
And what about, there's empowering the agents to make that experience happen. Where does self-service come into this? Is that more powerful? Is that equally as powerful? Is that based on the customer and the size? How do you guys think about that piece?
Do you want to start?
Yeah.
No, come on, think about it. Like, how many here gone to a travel agency to order a plane ticket over the last year? Like self-service, like if we can, we want to service ourselves. Like we don't want to talk to people about solving our issues or doing our stuff. Like we want the most convenient way of doing things, and normally that doesn't involve other people.
Yeah.
So like self-service, you have to use all the information you get in your customer service operations to build great self-service information catalogs and great self-services in general. And I think we all know that. And yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Kani's going to tell us how you guys do.
Actually, Bill and I might have the same experience, but I think customers come in all shapes and sizes. And I struggle sometimes to sell self-service, and it should be the most obvious place you go to for support. In the enterprise space, there are certain customers who have a red phone. I swear they probably do. And it doesn't have any buttons, but the moment you take it, it rings my number. And so there is this challenge in the enterprise space when something goes down and they're losing millions of dollars every second or every minute, that they will call. And so self-help's a bit of a challenge for us. But having said that, we have customers all the way, we have all our products are open source. The customers that are using it at the enterprise level is paying us for service. But so the different kind of customers, they definitely want to, the first human nature is to search yourself. I mean, I haven't bought a ticket by calling someone the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. and so self-service is really critical. One of the reasons we went to a different platform when we created Pivotal, and we wanted it to be easy to put the content in there, not have to go through like huge processes. We want to empower people outside of support. Why can't product managers, engineers, all these people be also contributing to the knowledge base and also taking part in the forums, right? Why can't customers answer each other's questions through the forums? And so this is definitely a place where we invested a significant amount of energy this year, and organically, no forum or community manager or anything. And some products are doing better than others just by the nature of the people who are passionate around self-help and empowering customers, and some aren't doing that well. And I think there's in an enterprise space there's I think I've reached a threshold in terms of how much I can take that organically. The next year I'm definitely investing in a community leader who will have initiatives across the company, across different organizations, outside into the customer base, into our advocates and our supporters, to really create this community, because my goal, which I have not committed to my management by end of 2015, is to at least detect 35% of particles, and I just said it, I guess. It is recorded. But self-help, is a really critical part of the service going forward.
If it's on the internet, it's true. Yeah. So that might not be true yet, but it will be very soon. For us, self-service is really critical. It's interesting though. I kind of went into this whole thing with self-service and forums and knowledge bases and such, and I went in thinking, well, our enterprise customers will never want to do that. They just want to call, right? They want to email us and call because they want to talk to somebody and figure it out. And it turns out, of course, they do want to use self-service. It's been a real big benefit, even when we're selling our product to our customers, to present the fact that we've got a bunch of self-service support options, not just that you have to actually engage with us, with a physical human being, whether it's over email or phone. And so after thinking about that for a while, I realized that the piece of the assumption that enterprise customers didn't want to use self-service that was wrong was not that they don't want to use self-service or that they do want to use self-service, but it's just situational, right? When they want to learn how to do something or they've got a non-critical problem, then they're more than happy to use self-service. In fact, it's way better for them to do it that way. And more they're familiar with going online and using browsers, and some of them even have the internet now. You know, they love that access. But as Kani mentioned, when there's a critical problem, when there's a service interruption, when something's not working right, that they have to have work right then, they also need to pick up the phone 24/7 and call. So we've recently implemented that as well, not just 24/7 support, but also 24/7 phone support on top of the 24/7 support to support those enterprise customers. And I think it speaks again to the difference between supporting an enterprise customer and supporting a very small SMB customer. I think SMB customers tend to be a little more patient when there's a problem with the software. And enterprise customers who perhaps are paying millions of dollars tend to be a lot more impatient when that's happening, and for good reason. So you have to have both channels, and the two in concert with each other are really powerful.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one last question, but before I do, we're about to invite everyone to take part in the age-old tradition of if Mikkel is on stage longer than 30 minutes, we have to reward everyone with opening up the bar so that they can get a little libation and a little break. So we're going to have a break in a moment to kind of regroup, and then we'll be pulling on our next panel. Also, in the spirit of proactivity, you all will be receiving, and actually have already received, a survey that we hope you'll take about kind of the experience today, so look for that. But to wrap this one up, really quickly, we've talked about kind of this path to customer engagement and the little nuggets of how you guys are thinking about it and how you do it. Can you tell me what is the biggest thing on your mind for the next year in your path to customer engagement?
In one word, self-help. I think it's huge. You'll say it right. The situational situation. You have to get customers who can wait to go to self-help and empower them with the information. I also have the challenge of local language support, 24/7 phone and local language support. And even there is technology that allows you to actually translate tickets now from whatever language to English, and then the agents write in English and it goes back in another language. And then Skype saying in a year they'll be able to do that over phone conversations. So I'm waiting for that, because that way I can basically support any customer anywhere over the phone, 24/7. So, but I would just self-help, and I have to also migrate all my customers from EMC and VMware. Can't wait for that to happen. Those two things are on my mind.
Okay, so while you were answering, I was sitting here trying to think of one word that would describe what my thing is. And so I come up with a killer one word, and I hope you all know what it is. Sacagawea. You know who Sacagawea was?
Yes.
Right? She was the Native American woman who supposedly guided Lewis and Clark across the country on their expedition through the wilds, and she said, "Watch out, there's a bear," and they'd shoot it, and this is how you get your canoe over the falls, and they wouldn't have made it without her. We want to be Sacagawea for our customers. We want to guide them to our best practices and our knowledge and our experience with thousands of customers just like them, and make them really get to the promised land with our product. Because if we do, then they'll be sticky. They will stay with us for a long time, and they will feel like they got more value than they ever expected out of the relationship with our company.
Say Barry. Well, I think that's, as you know, and we've been talking about, predictive support, corrective support, all these different things. We have a ton of stuff on the agenda, and what we do around the proactive engagement, chat, and how we bring that into a ton of new channels, and how we bring that into devices and so on, is going to be interesting for us. I think one of the things that I would like to be better at, both in Zendesk, and I would like to help our customers be better at, is kind of reducing kind of the feedback loop, so it's much easier for our customers to implement the changes in their services and in their offerings that dramatically reduces the need for support. Because ultimately, that is what we all want. Like, we just want a better experience. And if we can drastically reduce the reasons for interaction so that our products just work better and don't need support, I think that, and if we can help our customers get to that through our product, I will be very happy.
Right, we're on it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Let's all take a quick break. The bar is in the back. We'll be about